in the womb of Mother Africa and marched down the Nile, laying the foundations for human civilization and culture. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of these African ancestors who built their pyramids and their temples to their God concepts, to their principles, and to their moral values, who left us a legacy of architectural and monumental building unparalleled in the history of the world, we ask these ancestors who built the pyramids, who built the temples, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these African ancestors who took this African culture and extended it throughout Africa, building the stone cities of Zimbabwe, building the empires of the Sudan, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, building the Swahili city-states along the east coast of Africa, and in Christian Africa, asking King Lalibela and giving him the courage to build the 12 churches of Lalibela from the ground down, monuments to the world. We ask these Africans who spread this culture to the Dogo and to the Akan and to the Yoruba and to the Bankango and to the Zulu. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the Africans who opened up Africa, opened up the Nile Valley to other cultures and other peoples, and they came in and nurtured themselves on the African greatness. First coming in early were the ancient Hebrews, and they synthesized this culture and produced Judaism. Later coming in were the Christians, and they synthesized this culture and produced Christianity. Coming in were also the Greeks, who took the African culture, synthesized it, and produced Greek civilization. And then later, the Prophet Muhammad, and with the Arabs coming into the Nile Valley, they synthesized the culture and produced Islam. We ask these African ancestors, who as part of their legacy laid the foundations for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Greek civilization, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those African ancestors pulled out of Africa, taken to the hells of North America, South America, the Caribbean, maintaining the spirit of African humanity in their hearts and in their minds, and who left us this enormous legacy of struggle. We ask those Africans who resisted enslavement in the villages of Africa, who resisted enslavement in the shores of Africa, who resisted enslavement in those forts and dungeons, who resisted enslavement in the holds of those ships, who resisted enslavement when they arrived on these shores in the New World. We ask these Africans who ran into the highlands of northeast Brazil and established for 100 years the first free republic in the Americas, the Republic of Palmares, and their last great leader, Zumbi, who spared and sacrificed. We ask these Africans who replicated the Brazilian experience and went into the highlands of Jamaica and became the maroon free communities. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of the Guyanas and Suriname and created free republic of the Sur Maka and the Ajuka. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of Georgia and the swamps of Florida and moved with the Seminole Indians and resisted oppression. We ask these Africans who left us a legacy of struggle and resistance, the likes of which no one in the world has, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these Africans who created and laid for us a foundation of struggle and resistance that was passed on generation after generation, that was passed on to Harriet Tubman, who fought her way out of enslavement and became a symbol of freedom for all of us. Similarly, Frederick Douglass and hundreds of thousands of others fought their way out of enslavement. We ask those Africans who went with Boukman Dessalines to create the greatest revolutionary experience in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, leaving us a legacy, the likes of which no one else has had. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future.
Let us start our class with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lari Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow to all of you. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, great Gurus, receive our love, receive our desire.
Black power, 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 black power.
Inside of the Africa Forum, this is Running Africa, and my name is KABU Ma'at KHERU. This morning, my name is KABU Ma'at KHERU. Rain is at the desk. She'll be doubling up and tripling up this morning. We're going through until 10 o'clock. That's when the Big A comes in with the Sunday sunshine. We've got a full program for you this morning. Going to be linking up with the Ayabingi in a little while. Going to be going straight in a little while to Judgment Yard. I know our brother Sizzler is standing by. Going to be linking with Judgment Yard in a moment. April 21, of course. Groundation Day, the 58th anniversary. The Emperor Haile Selassie, His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor Haile Selassie I, visited Jamaica 58 years ago. Thursday, April 21, 1966. Ground. Sizzler Kalonji should be on the ground. Listen, man, the goosebumps really taking me over right now, because we're linking live with Judgment Yard. Sizzler Kalonji, you're there, my brother. Priest Brown, are you there, my brother?
I'm here, sister. I'm here.
Greetings. Are you at Judgment Yard?
I'm heading forward there. I went to seal up a little thing. I'm heading forward there.
And we're trying to make that link with Sizzler Kalonji. So I suppose once you get there. But this for us is an important moment. And let me just let our listeners know that Priest Enoch Brown, historically associated with the Ethiopia Black Africa International Congress, as you call it, Bobo Hill, Haile Selassie I, Rastafari, Royal Ethiopian Judah Coptic Church, and Rasta Ganja Global Sacramental Order. Of course, we're still within Rastafari month, which is the month of April, and the events are continuing. Priest Enoch Brown, give us an idea of what's happening today.
What is happening today is the continuing reading and reflecting on the progress, on where we are and the progress and what is necessary to be done for us to achieve our goal of, total liberation for our people.
All right. We're not hearing you too clearly because I know that you're traveling. But if there's a way that you could ensure, I don't want to tell you to stop, but something has to be done so that we can hear you better. Today at Judgment Yard, the Ayabingi we know continues. Talk to us about that.
The duty of it is praises, our duty to fulfill our duty of praises, So it is our duty and our pleasure to give thanks unto the Most High for leaving His royal throne room and coming here in the ends of the earth, to give in full recognition to the elders that paved the pathway and to the African diaspora in general,
Mm-hmm. I know also the discussions are continuing, the Zoom links and so on. What format are they taking today? Are you still doing a live Zoom, I suppose, for those internationally? And locally, what happens?
Yes, the Zoom will deal with the international outside and share what's going on. And otherwise, there'll be brethren chanting and others in discussions, different groups, discussions and sharing. Oneness amongst each other.
So persons can join the Zoom link if they're not able to make it to Judgment Yard today.
Certainly.
Mm-hmm. Do you have the details of the Zoom link?
No, the Honorable Sister Kalonji would be able to provide that for you.
All right. So we are trying to make that link with Judgment Yard. So just let Sizzler know first, please, that we are trying to make that link with Judgment Yard. We have a full program, and this is the time slotted for that link. If somebody could let him know. Are you close enough to Judgment Yard?
Portmore heading across, so I say about 25, 30 minutes away.
Oh, we'll be totally out of time then. So let me ask you, I know Judgment Yard has been the center where a lot of this is coming from. The April 21 celebrations, the month of April, Rastafari month. Most of the events and the activities are coming from Judgment Yard, right?
Well, concerning the Millennium Council, give thanks for the Royal and College for facilitating the continuous work of the Millennium Council towards such. So, being the Millennium Council was a pioneer with the Judah Coptic Church, pioneer in the April month. Mm-hmm. He has taken up such courtesy of entertaining the whole family from Judgment Yard.
Okay. All right. So it sounds good. Once again, it's the same Zoom information that we gave out last week. I don't have it with me here, just in case you have it from last week. It's the same one. You can call us with it later, Priest Enoch Brown, when you get a chance. And just let Sizzler know that we've been trying to reach out to him. We're not getting through to Judgment Yard, but that was supposed to be the link along with yourself this morning. But happy enough that we got you on your way. Keep in touch with us. Let us know how it goes for the morning. All right?
I will fulfill your request right away.
All right. Give thanks, my brother. Give thanks. Safe travels. You can see that I'm trying to get Peter Tosh in the mix. And you're hearing Negust, but I'm not quite sure what's happening otherwise. So let's do this again. While we stand by for our brother Devon Taylor Rain, let me know what's happening. Do we have Dr. Devon Taylor on the phone lines? We're standing by to have that quick chat with him. Let me know what is happening, please, as we get Dr. Devon Taylor online. All right. Much more to come because we're going to be joined live in studio this morning by a very, very special guest. We've been telling you about our special guest for a while now. And I know that for those who were listening last week, you heard the introduction to our very special guest coming into the studio. We're looking forward to the conversation that we're going to be having with Dr. Yeshua Israel Baba, who's already here and will be joining us in studio in a few, standing by to speak with Dr. Devon Taylor. All right.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Hearing you loud and clear. The only thing is, Devon, as you know, we're short on time. But good to have you online. Thank you for patiently waiting. So this is for us, and I said it last week, was shocking news when we heard that our brother had transcended Maka, and it's our brother Maka we're talking about from the Bob Marley Beach. When you talk about the struggle for access to the beach, I mean, he is one of the pioneers. Give us a quick, 30 minutes. 30-second period, a little bit about that connection and the background, a little about him.
Yeah, greetings. Yeah, so Maka is a very important figure within the Bob Marley Beach space. Maka is the son of ancient Rastafari daughter Bubbles, who settled Bob Marley Beach in the 1950. As we know, that space, is the space where the first Nyabingi temple was built, and that's the space where Rastafari were, running away from prosecution, settled. So Maka is, born into the Nyabingi family, and he stood up straight face to face against the system of oppression, against the Jamaican government and private entity to fight for Bob Marley Beach. So he protected that space, once his mother transitioned into today date. So he's a central figure. He was a member of the prominent Rastafari mansions and organization that was aimed at bringing Rastafari together. Maka was also a member of the Raga group, which is the Rastafari Ganja and Grassroots Association, that cultivates and transport, ganja for sacramental use within the Rastafari community. So, he was important not only in protecting Rastafari heritage, but also in progressively moving Rastafari, into a more unity, So the brethren did his work. He moved across Jamaica, in many bingis, professing, work of His Imperial Majesty, and why I and I need to come together, and continue our fight against systems of oppression. So, he was very, very important in the movement, and Maka made his trad, for repatriation within Africa, heading through South America,
yes.
through Brazil and into Ghana.
Yes, and transcended in Ghana. This was sudden. He wasn't ill, just for persons who are asking. This was pretty sudden, wasn't it, Dr. Taylor?
Yes, it was a sudden illness. We don't fully grasp the entirety of it, but it may have been attributed to something infectious that progressed into something else. But the family, as part of this awareness that we're trying to bring to the public and asking the public for help. To help the family to travel to Ghana, for the burial. So the family, as we know. The
ceremonies and the celebration of life will be happening in Ghana, and there is a call to the community to assist our brother Maka's relatives and his close families, his close family members, to make it to that, to the celebration of life in Ghana. This is the point you're making.
That's the point I'm making. Yes. Maka's empress would like to try. His daughters and his sons would like to make it down there, and this fundraiser is to really help the family, deal with the finances of that travel.
Yes.
So we are appealing, to the public. An account has been set up at JMMB Bank, and we can give the account number out here.
Yes, go ahead.
Because as ones know, it's quite an expensive trip. So this is the Knutsford Boulevard branch, which is in New Kingston, and the account number pretty long. So it's 000-300. 190-466.
Give it again.
So it's 000-300-190-466.
And that's your account number. And the branch is
the New Kingston branch of the JMMB Bank.
Okay. So that's JMMB New Kingston branch, and you just heard the account number. Devon, if you could text me the account number, I think before the program is out, I'll mention it again. And this is to get one family member to travel to Ghana for the celebration of life for Maka, the patriarch.
Well, would like to get more than one there.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be important. There's
how much are we looking to raise? What does that look like?
Well, the airfare to get there is $263,368
for one person.
For one person. So I think would like to get a minimum of 5 ones there.
So in US terms, we're looking at $3,000 per person, right? 3,500 US per person?
No, it's around $1,600 per person, $1,600 US per person.
Oh, that's just for airfare?
Yeah, that's just for airfare.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We have some other Rastafari brethren in the space that will help with accommodation.
All right. So it's just for airfare. So we're looking at $1,600 US per person. Just so we give it both. So it's 200 and how much Jamaican? 1,000 Jamaican? 200 and... Are you there? Did we lose?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Quickly, so once again, this is how much Jamaican?
Per person is $263,368.
So now we have it. And you also have the account number, JMB New Kingston branch. And when is the funeral?
So the date's not finalized, but the family would like to leave on May 26th.
Okay.
And once they get there, the funeral will take place within 3 days. So we're looking at maybe around May 29th.
Okay.
That's when, so yeah, that's what they're aiming. So, they had us bingy within the Bob Marley space on Friday doing some fundraising.
Yes.
And Bob Marley Beach today until, the next week or so, a donation box is on the beach. So if you are within the Kingston area too, you could go directly to the beach and make some donation the family.
Thank you so much, Dr. Devon Taylor, for the work that you continue to do. Thank you for making this link and for standing in the gap, as always. Please let us know if there's anything else that we can do on the ground to get this information out and to assist with the trial for the family members. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thanks.
All right, Dr. Devon Taylor there. Brother Maka, as we said, one of the stalwarts, one of the advocates and activists who was very serious about the rights, basic human rights of not just Rastafari, but people, the masses of the Jamaican people on this island. He has transcended from his way from Guyana through to South America and then into Ghana, and that's where he transcended. All right, we'll take a quick break. The Africa Forum. This is Running African. Our mission, our vision is to reunite the African family for development. Our mission includes breaking the cycle of mental control, blazing new paths towards Africa's rendezvous with destiny, bearing witness, demanding change, understanding what it means to bear witness, crafting an African-centered agenda for change and development, all the while, honoring my moral obligation to remember. You're inside of the Africa Forum. Thank you so much for joining us from wherever you are on the island. Thank you so much for choosing IRIFM and in particular for choosing the Africa Forum. Dr. Yashua Yisrael Baba is a doctor of audiology, poet, a musician, and author, a polymath, if you ask me. During his career, he was employed in academia, clinical, international, and in the public school settings. After his retirement, he embarked on an intense spiritual odyssey born out of an innate identification with Judaism and the Jewish culture. He has traveled extensively throughout Israel and visited several historical and biblical landmarks. He enjoys reading and asking questions and has read the Zohar. And once again, I hope I'm pronouncing everything right. I'm learning as I go along. The Pirkei Avot, I don't know that one, and the Guide for the Perplexed, Rabbi, and several of the contemporary Kabbalistic authors, including Yehuda Ashlag's Baal Har-Sulam, and he is a student of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who has celebrated Rosh Hashanah, given Zakta, and prayed the Tikkun HaKali in Uman, Ukraine. He's going to explain all of those for us as we go along this morning. He's a student of a Torah and the Hebrew alphabet as a technology of consciousness. He understands the letters of the Hebrew alphabet to be profound and the primal spiritual forces that were used by the Creator. Is a skilled pianist, a vocalist, and composer who has written, arranged, and produced 2 compact disc recordings, which we had those to play this morning. And he is a contributing writer for the monthly Reported, a local community newspaper, and hosts his weekly radio broadcast entitled Shema Yisrael. Dr. Yisrael has lived and worked in several countries, including India, Australia, Africa, and the South Pacific island of Guam. The wisdom and richness of the Yahudat is so enlightening. He has made a commitment to spread the knowledge of the one true God. He targets the lost sheep of the house of Israel. In the studio with me this morning, very honored to welcome, fresh from his journeys by way of Mexico to Jamaica, Dr. Yeshua Yisrael Baba. Baba, thank you so much for joining us in the studio this morning.
Good morning. It's a great opportunity to be here in this beautiful island. This beautiful island in this propitious moment of celebrating with the 12 tribes of Israel and the consciousness of Rastafari, the collective consciousness of African people in the diaspora. This is a diasporic awakening, and my contribution has been to hoist up the banner of consciousness, to recognize that what we are, an individualized impulse of consciousness having an evolutionary odyssey, now having risen up from the doldrum of slavery, been out of the slavery mentality for approximately 160 years of self-discovery, looking in most immediately at the surface value of our color and seeing the world through the paradigm of religion, because that was the principal tool of our enslavement. And so we now have arisen upon the cord of time to shift from the religious perspective to a science and technology perspective of cultivating our conscious potential, recognizing that we are not these bodies, we are not these colors, we are not these genders, but we are an impulse of creative intelligence having an evolutionary odyssey in time and space, becoming cognizant now of the laws of nature as an African historic ancient people with the potential now to manipulate and control creativity from within our own awareness. So this is my purpose of coming forward in this time, to offer technologies of consciousness by which we can compel the organizing intelligence from the state of least excitation.
That is a whole process, isn't it? And we're always progressing. In terms of consciousness, because I want to go to the various stages and the states and where people can be at, that which started with last week, and to look at reflection and reflexivity. But to say, first of all, when we talk about consciousness, what is consciousness? Do we know what is consciousness?
Well, there is a book written by Dr. Tony Nader. He's one of the foremost scientists in consciousness, said that consciousness now is the total reality. Consciousness, from the word conscious, was to know. And we now know from quantum physics that there's one unified field, one quantum field of pure mechanics called the unified field. We've known from the study of Vedas this notion of consciousness being the ultimate reality, the singular ultimate reality with a 3-in-1 structure. The structure as the knower, the known, and the process of knowing. So consciousness is one unified field of intelligence with a 3-in-1 structure, a self-interacting structure, the ability to know itself. And we are, as individuals, we are impulses of creative intelligence that has lost the memory of our unified self. So we are individuals in division. And we are now moving away from individuality back toward a holistic, unified sense of being. Myself as not an individual, but myself as an eternal an eternal aspect of intelligence and creativity, creative intelligence. So to ask the question, what is consciousness? Consciousness is the one reality that's referred to, let's say, in the scriptures. Since we're talking about the 12 tribes of Israel, celebrating Israel, let's go to Deuteronomy 6:4, and there's a beautiful statement that says in Hebrew, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Vayed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Now, what is this one? This one in the darkness has been perceived as an anthropomorphic entity. God, He, God, man, anthropomorphic. No, we're now moving away from that notion as an anthropomorphic entity, as just the ultimate intelligence. God as an acronym, if you will, for the generator, G, organizer, and dispenser of everything that is. That is that one ultimate reality with this 3-in-1 aspect of knower, known, and aspect of knowing. Knowing, known, and the relationship between the two. The thinker, the thought, and the process of thinking. This one ultimate reality. And that's what we are now. And we have now technologies of consciousness, that is, by means by which we can take the mind into the interior field of being and have our mind infused with the laws of nature, all the home of all the laws of nature, and then that synchronizes us with the forces of evolution that's guiding, instructing evolution. So this is the propitious moment for we as a African people arising from the doldrums of slavery up to the recognition of, let's say, our own theology of Rastafari, the ability to define and conceptualize a theology for yourself as a people, and then recognizing at this point in ourselves that we are an impulse of intelligence, and how to optimize that by infusing it into our minds, making our thoughts broader and more profound.
How are we to understand the mind in relation to consciousness when we talk about into our minds, or our mind activating thought or manifesting creativity? What's a mind? The
paradigm would be universal, pure potentiality, that is pure consciousness. Now, when consciousness vibrates, it vibrates and moves, it becomes a subjective, individualized aspect. The individualized aspect of consciousness is mind, because when consciousness becomes conscious, then intelligence becomes intelligent, and that intelligence is our mind. So we have consciousness, the ultimate reality, individualized, expressed as individual screen, mind. Mind is the screen upon which consciousness appears. Each individual has a unique mind, and their unique mind is consistent with their unique state of consciousness that has been developed down the corridor of time. And so each individual mind has intelligence superimposed on that mind, that is the conscious display of intelligence. Subjective intelligence would be the mind. The mind then being the grosser aspect of the mind would be, the next aspect would be the senses, and the senses being having the objects of perception, that is the 5 senses, to allow us to interact and see with the objective world. So we've gone from the unmanifest pure field of consciousness to the manifest relative aspect of this ultimate reality. Consciousness is one. Consciousness is one, having aspect of a physical, relative, objective world that we see, we call the world. Yeah. And then we have the unmanifest aspect, timeless, eternal, non-changing, which we call spirit or Purusha. So the total reality is reality of consciousness. Consciousness having 2 aspects, manifest, that is subjective, seen, and unmanifest, eternal, non-changing. And then, of course, the physiological correlates of that, which is our physical body, our mind, our senses, and our intellect, to interact with the physical world in which we find ourselves.
So the mind then is part of that physical, that is individual to the physical manifestation of the individual. So that the mind becomes that which is for the individual singular, as opposed to minds coming from that one space, yes, or entangled.
In the individualized aspect of being brought about by karma. See, the karma is the soul's record of past behavior that's going to determine what you are in this relative sense, the mind. So this mind is a metaphysical aspect of consciousness, because we don't have. The mind is not physical. The brain is physical. We can see the brain with its 4 lobes and its anatomy and physiology. The mind is a metaphysical aspect of that. So we can't see a mind. We can't dissect a mind, but we can dissect the brain, because the brain is, of course, the physical correlate of the spiritual component of consciousness, which will be in that mind that we talk about.
So last week we talked about, and we didn't get enough time, and I hope that we'd be able to kind of get some time to go through the different state of consciousness. And one of the things to talk about was that stage that is an early stage, which is a dream state. And putting that within the context of consciousness, is there consciousness during that state? Is consciousness only within the waking state, or is there also consciousness within the dream state? And how do they differ, if anything?
Consciousness in this context is a word that we're using to describe conditions of the neurophysiological mechanisms. So based upon the neurophysiological mechanisms we have now, we understand 7 states. But ordinarily, before we became cognizant of this field of consciousness, we have waking, dreaming, sleep state of consciousness. That's called ordinary consciousness that all human creatures have. And from that level of consciousness, the world is seen. I'm right now, a waking state of consciousness. I and I are having a dialogue talking about consciousness. And
how do we know that we're awake?
Well, we are awake by virtue of our senses. Our senses that allow me to interact. I can see you. I can hear you. I've been drinking the coffee that the studio provided me.
But don't we also have those experiences in the dream state?
But in the dreaming state, there would be a different state of consciousness. For example, physiological correlates that characterize dreaming. For example, there's something called REM sleep. REM sleep is a sleep where there's rapid eye movement. This rapid eye movement is an indication that during sleeping, the body is releasing stress. So that's one physiological state of physiological variables that's operating uniquely.
Does that have to be observed?
No, it can just be measured. It's measured. That's how you get
and then who does the measurement?
Well, we can do the measurement by hooking up electrodes to the brain and recording activity within the central nervous system.
So you get the point I'm making in terms of the sleep and wake, because if the REM sleep has to be measured then, and then someone is going to do that hooking up, because we're not going to do the hooking up ourselves. So it's the observation of that process that names a process, that tells you what is going on in that process. And because I'm trying to kind of make a distinction between knowing what state we're in and literally and what is the truth of a state that we're in terms of consciousness. Are we in the dream state, or in the sleep state, or in the awake state? At what point do we, when did we awake?
Well, let's see.
When did we wake up, as they say in Jamaica?
There are degrees of wakefulness. There are degrees of wakefulness. And what we're talking about, consciousness, really is waking up, because I work from the premise that we're in this first states of consciousness. This is not what we call high state of consciousness. Waking, dreaming, sleeping state of consciousness would not be called a higher state of consciousness. It's called a perfunctory state of consciousness, because everybody has that. Higher states of consciousness would be cultivated. For example, a 5th state of consciousness would be cosmic consciousness. A fourth state of consciousness would be transcendental consciousness. So waking, dreaming, sleep state of consciousness, 3 states. Fourth state of consciousness, transcendental consciousness. Now, transcendental consciousness, each one of those states of consciousness has a unique physiology that correlates with the perception. For every perception that we have, the nervous system, every state of the nervous system, what we see and what we experience is determined by the state of the nervous system. That's why when you're sleeping, you're a different state of the nervous system than being highly active in waking state of consciousness. Transcendental consciousness is a fourth state of consciousness. That's characterized by a very unique set of hypoactive physiological measures, reduced respiratory system, reduced heart rate, for a fourth state of consciousness that's unique. Now, when fourth state of consciousness, that is a cosmic state of awareness, which cannot be maintained initially until repeated episodes of going into and out of this fourth state of consciousness now creates a fifth state of consciousness where you have the coexistence of silence and dynamism. And this is where we're getting to as we move from beyond our identification with our visible characteristics of color and religion into orchestrating higher states of neurophysiological operation so that perceptions become different. I become aware of myself as the witness to activity rather than the agent of action.
Without, and I'm going to take a quick break, and let's just mull on this while I go through the break, but without, for people who are having the physical experience as Africans, without the experience of slavery, which is not our history, it's an interruption of our history, without that experience, would there be, to what extent would there be this need to move away or to recognize that there are other levels of consciousness away from color and from religion? Because these two, the enslavement of Africans obviously came with those two things. It was religion, it was the idea of race and so on. So let me just take a quick break and we come back to that. Let's take ourselves, right? Because it is within our capacity to understand and to overstand that we're having this conversation this morning. Dr. Yeshua, just before we went into the break, I'd raise a question to you about that period of disruption in African or material manifestation point, if you will, African history, of slavery. That I remember Dr. Van Sertima talks about, well, he says whether something happened, and I'm going to misquote him, whether something happened 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, it occupies, once you remember it or you recall it or remember it, it occupies the same space in your consciousness. And I think he was very clear in his mind what he was talking about when he talked about consciousness. I've had many discussions with him before he transcended about that statement that he made. And I think it's taking me to where I'm going with you to say that because of that memory, that consciousness that we have, and although we ourselves did not experience it, would we have had this need to talk about race and to talk about religion and to talk about issues that are literally outside of our own existence, but something that happened along the way? If we didn't have this disruption, which is slavery, what difference would that have made to how we perceive ourselves in understanding ourselves as spiritual beings, as African, having this African experience, or would it not?
I think it's a necessary step in our evolution to bring us to this propitious moment. The past represents an underdeveloped state, and if we believe in Imuna, if we believe in faith, if we believe in divine providence, we believe that things are orchestrated by the organizing intelligence that structures destiny, and within the flow of that collective events, we will have subjective experiences of I like this or I don't like this. So we're having the flow of consciousness through time, the evolutionary momentum of society, of the world, through time in different events, and the subjective experiences will be, I like this, I don't like this. So I'm addressing now the slavery context, the experience of slavery, the denigration that we experience as a people, and the pain and suffering was an essential step in our evolution to bring us to this moment, to bring us to the fact that we are not these bodies, that there's a different a deeper dimension to our Africanity than our color and our belief systems with respect to religion and God were at one time in one place, structured in a certain way, but by virtue of the experience, they change and evolve, because everything in the relative world is evolving, and evolution is all good, irrespective of our subjective appreciation of this horrific event that we call slavery. Because what did we learn from slavery? We learned from slavery a very rich lesson. We learned from slavery, first of all, that without the ability to define, you are not really in control of your spiritual destiny. This is a very critical learning experience, which is now why we can understand that a book about God is not the experience of God, because we in slavery were all given this book about God and told that God wrote the book. But we know that God didn't write this book, and we were given this book by the same people enslaved us, and we were trying to find an identity in the book and have a savior. So all of these experiences are experiences of consciousness that are bringing us to this period of enlightenment where we are right now, 2024, having overcome slavery, overcome denigration, created our own theology of liberation, theology and religion, and now understanding that we are not these bodies, but we are an impulse of consciousness, and we can orchestrate and control our own evolution.
So that, and you talk about this rich lesson that was learned, that we have learned or supposed to have learned, which says without the power or the ability to define, that then things are defined for us. So I want you to expound on that some more. What exactly do you mean that without that ability to define? Is it power that we didn't have? How did we lose that ability? Did we come with that ability?
First of all, we had our minds were blown. The trauma that we experienced as a people.
Well, I'm going to allow you to pull the microphone towards you, okay. Doctor. Yes, pull it towards you. You can pull it towards you. Yes.
Well, what happened is we were eviscerated. Our consciousness was absolutely eviscerated. We knew nothing. Our culture, our egalitarian society, our synchronicity with natural law was all taken away when we were enslaved. We were enslaved. We were given a theology. We were given a theology, and we were given a God, and we were given a belief system that was not our own. We didn't formulate anything. And we went through all of this to bring us to where we are right now, to recognize that we don't have to believe in this system of religion that we inherited. These were concepts. That's why I said, now, I want to use the key word here, paradigm. African Americans, Africa is at the precipice of a paradigm shift. A paradigm is a worldview and concepts and practices that people do based upon whether they feel that these practices are appropriate for them. None of this was defined for us. We were simply given a religion, given a paradigm. Here's your God. You believe in heaven. You're nothing. You have to have salvation. You have to have blood. That's a vicarious blood atonement, redemption. All of these concepts we were given to. Only to recognize now we didn't define any of that, but we have the power to define now. We can define for ourselves. So everything in life has been for us a learning experience. So we're poised right now to go much higher into a world that's created for ourselves, by ourselves, in a manner consistent with our own consciousness.
So you talk about this paradigm shift that is now happening with diaspora Africans wherever we are in the world, and continental Africans, of course. So this paradigm shift is toward that another level of consciousness then. Well, talk to us about that shift and what that looks like, because I hear that you are underscoring the ability to define and understanding that we didn't define any of what we are now participating, which is rituals, ceremonies, beliefs, etc., etc.
The paradigm shift has gone from faith and religion to science and technology. Away from faith and religion, believe. No, science is systematic, research, replicatable, dependable, systematic. So now we have systematic technologies of consciousness. I want to talk about self-reflection technique. Systematic technologies of consciousness, systematic ways of taking the mind deep inside of our own pure being. The pure being, the pure self. The self is the individualized aspect of God. God is not an anthropomorphic entity, but an inspirative, creative intelligence that we are in our essential nature. And so now the paradigm shift is away from belief and focus in a book to engaging mental technologies of how to superimpose a non-static thought on my mind, which will induce vertical thinking and allow my mind to dive deep within itself, to experience subtler aspects of the subconscious, infusing subconsciously my mind with more intelligence, and then connecting me to the transcendental reality. That will then have the effect long-term of making me a cosmically aware person. I move from individual awareness to cosmic awareness. So the 21st century conscious goal, the paradigm shift of the 21st century, is becoming cosmically conscious, becoming aware of my consciousness as a transcendental, spiritual, eternal being, and then how to manipulate and orchestrate my control of the laws of nature. I am one with the laws of nature. How do I project a thought from the infinite field of pure consciousness and have the laws of nature act upon my thought and create the manifested desire that I'm having in this field of consciousness? From my consciousness, I begin to co-create with nature.
Does this co-creation, because you talk about thought and also about God, and so I want to ask about language, because this shift in paradigm and this new awareness that you speak about, that we're rising to this level of awareness, shifting the paradigm as we go along, to what extent is language important in all of this, in terms of how we name things, what we call things? God, for example, is a word that was also given to us. But there has to, because you talk about, we had thought from the beginning. Yeah. I think you know what I'm trying to ask, without even asking it. So let me go ahead. Yeah.
But see, thought is an impulse of energy and intelligence. That's by definition. What is by definition a thought? A thought is an impulse of energy and intelligence. We experience thinking. We have a thought. A thought is an impulse of energy because it rises up from infinite silence to become we become cognizant of I am thinking. We're not cognizant of I'm thinking. Suddenly, I'm thinking of my grandmother. So that thought was an impulse of energy and intelligence. Well, I have thinking all the time. I have infinite number of thoughts all my life. So I can deduce from that the field of thought must be an infinite field of energy and intelligence. How do I get to this energy and intelligence that is characterized by thought or by stream of thought? And it is by using the technology of consciousness in the science of creative intelligence to take a thought that is a non-static thought, which we call in meditation a mantra. A mantra is a mind tool, and the natural tendency of the mind is to go to different fields of happiness, greater fields of happiness. So when I superimpose a mantra, a meaningless sound, in my mind takes a dive into its authentic nature. And its authentic nature is pure intelligence and energy, because I said one thought by definition was an impulse of energy and intelligence. So we have thoughts all our life. We can't turn it off. We can deduce that the field, there must be an infinite field of energy and intelligence, a pure field of energy and intelligence located at the source of thought. That's the theory.
So could that which we have been told is God, which is their word, not our word, which I noticed that you made into an acronym earlier. Could thought at our level of shifting that paradigm and awareness be that which, for us, within our own paradigm, be equivalent to and even above that idea of the God?
Yes, the thought is the God, because consciousness has two aspects. It can express itself in thought or in forms. The physiology is an aspect of consciousness. The nature in the trees, it's an aspect of consciousness. So we see consciousness in form, and we also see the other nature of consciousness in thought forms and ideas. Everything that has been created. Someone created the little telephone we have now based upon an idea. Someone created this microphone based upon an idea. Thoughts in terms of form, thoughts in terms of ideas. So this consciousness, all there is consciousness. So this G-O-D, again, this G-O-D, a word that was said. God did that. That was in the old religious paradigm. Who did that? God. Who made it snow? God made it snow. Well, we know it wasn't. God didn't make it snow. Snow was a function of certain physical conditions. We understand the nature of science based upon science and how snow and temperature and all the variables that are involved. Now they become no longer God did it, but the G-O-D now becomes not a man, but the G-O-D is the generator, the organizer, dispenser, the organizer for the laws of nature that structure evolution, diversity, and life.
So that everything is connected.
Yes.
Because even, so the different manifestations of form then,
yes,
which would include us.
Yes.
Would be connected to whatever is organizing that space.
Divine law.
The
laws of nature. That's where we're going. The laws of nature. Not no anthropomorphic deity. Laws of nature. Water freezes if the temperature gets to be 32 degrees. God didn't freeze it. So there's a relationship. There's a scientific view of the world. So I said we're moving away from the paradigm of faith and religion. Just believe it. Don't understand it. No. Science and technology. Technology is the application of science, scientific law for practical purposes. So that's what we're using now. The scientific, the whole thing of creative intelligence using the science of meditation. How to take the mind and infuse the mind with greater cosmic intelligence, making life better, making thoughts more profound, making life wonderful, living heaven on earth. Heaven is not up in the sky. Heaven is supposed to be lived here. When do we live in heaven? We live in heaven when we are synchronized with that organizing intelligence, which we call the G-O-D, which is divine law.
So there has to be, for us, even as the paradigm is shifting, and the paradigm, is there a prod Is there an impulse? Is there, what do they call it in science when something affects something so that it changes?
A cause.
A cause. For this shift in paradigm.
Yeah, well, it's cosmic. Now, here's another, there's a relationship. The laws of nature, you ever heard that the pendulum swings both ways? Well, when we look at the suffering in the world today, the world is suffering. Even there's wars and genocide and killing and murder in societies. It's just the norm. Why? Because humanity had become blinded to only one aspect of life. That is the material, objective, the seen, visible world, to the exclusion of the unmanifest, transcendental, eternal, non-changing, organizer, generator, dispenser. So when we're people living a 50% value of life, only a relative life, caught up in an extraordinarily rapid pace of high technology, and without the what's the word that I want to know? The recovery, the recuperative, the restorative values of silence and peace and organizing intelligence that structures joy and harmony, the unmanifest aspect. So that's why we're living, that's why we're seeing suffering now. And when this happens, cosmic itself, I say the cosmic nature itself, that's why the universe is bringing forth Dr. Yahshua Israel to initiate a dialogue. So let's talk about consciousness. Let's not talk about color. Let's define, let's see what this G-O-D is. What is this relationship between divine law and my happiness? Why am I not happy since I have all the material things? Something is missing, and this is why at this stage in my life I thought, as 75-year-old Baba, what can I do? I can initiate a dialogue with my people about science and technology. How do we, going forward as a people, out of the doldrum of slavery, take control of our destiny and control where we're going? And that is by understanding the relationship between cause and effect, and consciousness is the cause. All of the possibilities exist in the infinite field of pure consciousness, and that is the source of all of the solutions that we need.
So then let me take another quick break, and then when we come back to look at that creativity then and thought and what are we creating even when we're not shifting paradigm or when we're shifting paradigm, and then to look at our own divine energy, or in other words, talking about energy and frequency and vibration. I think this is basically where I'm going to say, how do we create and what are we creating with thought? So let me take a quick break. Much more time than this to even talk about the self. So we're just going to have to invite you back, as long as you're in Jamaica. Not quite sure how long you're staying, but we'll talk about that. So let us talk about thought now, Baba, and to say, if we understand thought to be as powerful as you have described this morning, and as a creative force, in other words, so we can, through that process, create our own reality. To what extent are we creating what we are experiencing?
The power of the thought is proportional to the width of the base of the thought. The power of the wave is proportional to the width of the base of the wave. The base of the wave, the broader the base of the wave, the more water contained in the wave. Subsequently, thought, the power of the thought. As we cultivate the unconscious part of, we only use 10%, they say in psychology, 10% of the human consciousness capacity is used. That means 90% remains uncultivated. So as we, through a process, a technology of consciousness that I call my meditation here, self-reflecting, reflecting on the self, tends to broaden the base of the thought, making the thought more powerful. So as thoughts become more powerful and we begin to fulfill our incarnation objective, human individual life has an incarnation objective. The incarnation objective of human life is to become cosmic. And when human life has become cosmic, individuality is surrendered. Now, what do you mean by individuality being surrendered? It means you can say, not my will, but thine be done. That's the point when you reach the point of evolution where it's no longer an egocentric, selfish-driven life, but my life now becomes purposeful because my life, my thoughts, my destiny is in sync with the organizing intelligence that is structuring destiny. And my work is not my work, but my work is the work of the universe. My purpose is the purpose of the universe. My goal is to bring forth humanity to higher levels of its awareness and to make heaven become here on earth. So that's the power of thought, because the ultimate goal of thinking is to become united with the source of all thought, and in that case, individuality is surrendered, and an individual becomes a cosmically aware being, a son of God, if you will, a daughter of Zion, if you will, someone's living in sync with the organizing intelligence that structures destiny and walks and lives in the sanctuary of God, if you use that word. God is the generator, the organizer, and dispenser of perfection, not an anthropomorphic entity that's blessing and cursing and liking you. That's soft.
And to what extent external from you or within you?
Pardon me?
That energy, that force, that organizer,
yes.
That energy. To what extent is that external from you, within you, or interacting as both?
It becomes you. You become. Individuality, I say, is surrendered. Individuality is surrendered when the individual merges with his cosmic self. When the cosmic self arises, becomes cosmic consciousness, then activity is surrendered. Individual activity is surrendered. For example, who structured my being here, for example? How did I get here? I don't think I didn't get here just because I got here, but there are...
I know, I can tell you that, right? That I can tell you, because I got an email, and I'm still trying to figure out where did that email come from. And I'm still asking the questions, like, where did that email come from? Who... honestly, I'm still asking the questions of Shamara and Vivian, the broadcast assistants, to say, how did that email get in my box? So that, yes, and for me, it was synchronicity. I understood it, and I also understood my purpose. And so I had to do what I had to do, which it sounds like an intercept, but it really isn't. Basically what it is, it was synchronicity, and so that you had to be in the space this morning. And this is the point I'm making. So that at what point, energy, frequency, and vibration, let's talk about that. Because you see, this is a frequency at which I'm vibrating. Right? And you enter. When and where we enter, I think is critical for us to have that conversation. In other words, to what extent you talk about thoughts being waves. So if we're vibrating on a similar frequency, do we ultimately, in some kind of quantum entanglement, respond to each other, meet each other, have these kinds of conversations?
Well, it's the organizing intelligence. Again, you can talk about discrete frequency, but we wouldn't know what our discrete frequencies are. But we know that we're vibrating by virtue of what we're doing. Our energy is being enhanced and our vibration is being increased. And then our vibration begins to be increased. We go into another realm. We go into the automation of administration. Baruch Hashem. Automation of administration. That's the word I'm looking for. Let's look at that.
Let's talk about it.
Automation of administration. That is when you're synchronized, you use your word. We've become synchronized with that unmanifest intelligence that is driving evolution, and we're in a current. And that current now, we don't have to orchestrate our destiny. It is orchestrated for us. So I and I encounter. I and I end up being on the same type of frequency to bring forth into fruition the aims of the universe. I and I haven't even met, but by virtue of seeing you these 20, 30 minutes, we are in sync. We're having the same level of conversation, the same thought processes, the same thought. And that's universal intelligence. That's universal being. That's cosmic status. That's cosmic consciousness. That's the will of God.
And on the flip side of that, because that I get, on the flip side of that, our situation, for example, on the island in Jamaica, to come to the material manifestation, is the beautiful oceans, the waves that speak to you for miles and on end, the mountains and the green hills, and just an environment where ancestors are just watching, and you can feel that energy. And at the same time, on this island, we are, Jamaica, one of the most violent countries in the world, maybe the second most or the third most, but definitely in the top 3. So that our people have turned on themselves. Our youths are killing their grandmothers. Our babies are killing each other. 14-year-olds starving each other. There are fights in schools. And there is a lot of, in the midst of all this spirituality, and I'm doing this deliberately, there is this anger and this bloodshed. How would you, it just, and I know you haven't had a chance to look on this, but take my words, because they are, it is what it is. What role does that energy, the divine creative energy, or the opposite of that, play in where we are, and how can we begin to change that using your own tools of reflection, if you will?
We are alienated from ourselves. We aren't aware of who we are. We are identifying with the surface value of the ocean, which is the wave level, the diversity. I, thy, the dichotomy. It's an artificial dichotomy, I, thou. The I-thou dichotomy is artificial because the reality of duality is unity. God is one. So now we are a young people just emerging from slavery a few years ago. So the first thing that we wanted was to want what we saw. And what we see is the material world. We want stuff, we want things, we want ID, we want prestige, we want. And what we wanted has to do with the temporal things that we see. Now we have failed because everybody has money, wealth, cars, prestige, identity, and the family is broken. Murder is rampant. Religion is gone. So things look good, but things are not good. People are not safe. People are insecure. Murder's high. Everybody has a gun. Something's wrong. And the universe has brought us to this moment so that I and I can ask this question, say, something is missing. That's what we can say. We're all very wealthy. We all got lots of money. We travel the world. Something is missing. And what is missing? The knowledge of the self, the knowledge of myself as an impulse of divinity, the knowledge of myself that I am the G-O-D. The knowledge of myself is that I am that, thou art that. All of this is nothing else but that. My knowledge of that, not my understanding. My intellectual understanding, my knowing, and knowing is what? The union of the subject and the object. Knowledge is the link between the observer and the observed. And when that happens, that's called unity. So we're missing unity consciousness. We're missing the consciousness of the fact that I am that and thou art that. All of this is that because we don't have any technology of consciousness. We don't even have a conversation about consciousness. We don't know that how how to develop the consciousness. How do I really haven't told you how to develop the consciousness. The self-reflection is how to take the mind into the field of pure intelligence and bring that out of me. That pure intelligence also is a field of purity. That field of intelligence is a field of holiness, because remember, God blew his breath into man and man became a living soul. That soul has to be consciousness of that purity, which I am. And this is why I'm going about telling people, who are you? Which start with the question, what is the reference for the I? I am not the religion. I am not the gender. I am not the ethnicity. I am transcendental to all of that, as I am an impulse of creative intelligence that is timeless, ageless, eternal. And I can know all in that, but it's up to me to cultivate that. So this is where we must begin right now to continue to have such dialogues of what is consciousness and how. See, we work from the premise of religion, which was backwards, which was be good and find God. Nope. The 21st century paradigm is find God and be good. Okay, see, the thing while we're working, be good and find God. No, you find God first within yourself. Learn to take your mind into that pure divinity. That is the God. That is the organizer. That is the dispenser and the generator of everything. And it is the home of all the laws of nature. Synchronize my mind with that organizing intelligence, and I will not violate any laws. I will not sin. I will not kill. I will not murder. I will love, because I will see myself as in everybody else. I see myself in you. I say it's like putting on green spectacles. When you put on green spectacles, everywhere you look is green. And these spectacles that we must put on now is God-conscious spectacles, so that we can begin to see God everywhere as the source of creative intelligence.
And not outside of ourselves.
Yes.
God is, and the God consciousness is absent.
Yes.
From the space.
Yes.
Right. And so that and we are so what we experience. Or let me ask you, what are some of the things that a people can experience or are prone to experience when the God consciousness is missing? And the God consciousness in from the perspective of which we are understanding it this morning, know thyself and thou shalt know God, in other words.
Well, first of all, you can't love your neighbor as yourself. First of all, you can't love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't,
if the God consciousness is missing, because the God consciousness.
So let's define what is God. God consciousness is unity consciousness. The consciousness of God is recognizing that the self of me is also the self of you. Now we just say use Rasta language. The I of the I is the I of the I. Yeah. To really know that, not to say it, but to become conscious, to feel it on an emotional plane, so that when I see you, I see myself. I love myself. So it's not on the intellectual level, it's on the level of being. That's what I mean by consciousness. Consciousness has to do with a living reality of seeing and knowing myself to be that same self, because that's unity consciousness. See, God consciousness, unity consciousness. And the unity consciousness is living in the sanctuary of God, experiencing the unified consciousness of existence, and that is in harmony with everything that is around me, and I become an agent of good.
How does one begin to cultivate that consciousness, and how do you learn that consciousness? And let us do it through systems, but also through self. What is the role of systems, of state, of I don't want to use the word government, but just so that we understand that I'm speaking at that level, as opposed to, and also afterwards to say, through self.
It's a commitment to discipline. It's a commitment to transform oneself. For example, if one perceives oneself as a pristinely white piece of cloth, and I'm going to transform my white cloth into this purple dye that I have. And what do I do to do this? Every day I take this white cloth and I dip it in the dye and I hang it out to dry. I hang it out to dry, and I take it and I dip it again. I hang it out to dry. As it dries, the color fades. I take it and I dip it again. I keep dipping it again. I keep dipping. I keep taking my mind, my subjective mind, into the inner field of pure being inside of my consciousness. I keep transcending my subjectivity to experience my universal nature. And as I transcend my universal nature, and experience, as I transcend my subjective nature and infuse my universal nature, I get an activity. I activate again, and I lose the thought of my universal nature. So I keep taking my mind into the pure field of being and infusing pure consciousness into a pure divinity into my subjectivity.
Is there a requirement for a disruptor or an enhancer or an initiator for something like that?
You have to have a teacher, in this case, Dr. Israel, to initiate you by giving you the mind tool that's going to take your mind into the transcendent and color it with divinity, to infuse divinity, to synchronize yourself with righteousness. By synchronizing yourself with righteousness, you become one with righteousness. When you become one with righteousness, individuality is surrendered and the purpose of individual life is met. Now you become a cosmic person, an agent for the universe to do the will of God.
What and let me go to the break with this question. What role does culture play in all of this to come forward to identity? Because identity doesn't have to be a racial identity or a religious identity, but an identity of experience because of how you are manifesting in this iteration. And so what role does culture play? And I'll explain if I need to when I come forward. At 8:30 we're going to the Supreme Ventures draw, and Dr. Yeshua Yisrael Baba will be back with us at 9. He's going to hang on with us. We're going to speak with Paul Ward about the St. Mary Literary Festival, which is happening on the 27th of April. He's coming in to talk to us for a while about that. And then at 9 o'clock, we return to our conversation with Dr. Yeshua, and hopefully we'll be able to open the telephone lines at that moment. Dr. Yeshua, so we were talking about culture because we're looking at our own particular situation on the island here in Jamaica. What's happening with our youth? What's happening on the roads? There's a potpourri of negativity in the midst of all this spiritual energy, and so it seems as if it's a conundrum. But this is what's happening on the island right now. Maybe it's part of the paradigm shift. I don't know, but it is what it is on the island. The question I'm asking is, to know consciousness and to rise to the different levels of consciousness, into knowing thyself, into knowing oneself, so that one knows God, or the I and I. How important is culture in that process?
I think culture is everything. I think that we're at a very critical point historically, because our perspective is religion, and a religion that was delimiting. For example, the culture and the religion comes from the Europeans who conditioned us to think of a savior. So whether we want a white savior or whether we create a one that's black, we still have the same notion of a savior. And that is so. And my whole thing is that the culture will have to recognize that it is seeing the world through a milieu that it did not create. The culture, Jamaican culture or African American culture going forward has to sit down and evaluate it itself and say, listen, but my very spirituality goes against myself. So, for example, the notion of having a savior or an individual that is divine. We're looking for, he's the divine one, because we came from a model that Yeshua was the divine one. Rather than now scientific technology, that life is divine. And every child in Jamaica is divine. And not that there's one that's going to be divine or one that was divine, but life in itself is divinity. That life is divinity, and it is our responsibility to cultivate going forward that divinity in every child, so that every child became acutely aware of his consciousness as being an individualized aspect of God. That's heaven on earth. So the question we'll have to ask as a group of people, where are we going and what type of society we're going to have? Are we going to bring these vestiges from slavery with these models of one demigod? And we want to have us one like him. We want to have a demigod and a savior that we need to have vicarious blood atonement and be saved. Am I a bad person? Do I need salvation? Must I believe in a historical figure that was 2,000 years ago that I don't know in order to be validated? Is that where we're going in terms of using your word culture? Maybe we need to rethink culture and define going forward, recognizing we've only been out of slavery 162 years, so we can't call ourselves pure. We're in the process of defining. So this requires for some hard, forthright thinking and talking about what type of people are we. And I would like to see ourselves going forward as everybody is divine. Everybody has the potential. Heaven can be lived here on earth. Not that we're going to have to believe in some figure who was divine, and I'm not divine, and I'm going to go to heaven when I die because I believe in that figure. I think that we have evolved as a people now up to certainly examine that and throw some of that out and define for ourselves.
We just have a minute to go in this segment. Because when you think about it, our young children, I grew up in that system. If you are born in sin, and you are a sinner until such time, and sin is evil, and you're representing everything that is evil. This is a serious hard wire to come into the world with, that kind of thinking. So that I hear you saying that we're going to have to rethink culture.
Yes.
And I think this is the crux of where our solution might lie here in Jamaica, in that we have to rethink culture. I agree with that 100%. I've been thinking about that myself. So that when we come back, we want to talk about reflection, because I know this is something that you are, this is a speciality for you. This is where your thinking is right now. And so we want to talk about reflection and reflexivity when we come back from the interview with Paul Ward, which is around about 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for staying on. Thank you so much for coming into Jamaica and being in the studio this morning and staying with us until 10. Thank you so much, Dr. Yeshua Yisrael Baba. He's going to be in the studio with us. Don't worry about it. He'll be back in a short while. We're going to go to, in about a minute, it will be time for the Supreme Ventures draw. And then right after that, we'll be speaking with Paul Ward, who's a scientist himself, by the way, but he's coming in to talk about the St. Mary Literary Festival, which is happening in St. Mary on Saturday, April 27 at the Port Maria Anglican Church Hall at 10 a.m. So stand by for that. Listen up. Top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick and cash pot early bird draws coming up next at 8:30. So we're standing by for that. At the same time, we know that happening today at all the Rastafari houses and mansions here on the island in Jamaica. Rastafari have been gathering before today, but I know there are some special events happening today also at the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, we're told. So check those out, if you will. Wherever you go, you can't be wrong today. As we stand by for the Supreme Ventures draw, which is coming up at 8:30. Oh, it's 8:30, time on Area FM. It's 8:30, so we're standing by for that. That's him there on the jingle. Sewa. We don't have a clue what Prima is saying, but it's in our genetic memory. We understand every word. That's all we need to do. All right, we're going into the next segment of our program. Because we're looking now at the St. Mary Literary Festival. We believe that this is a brilliant initiative that's coming out of St. Mary. Paul Ward is leading that, retired university lecturer, conceptualizer of the St. Mary Literary Festival. He joins us in studio. Hard-working Paul Ward. How do I know you're hard-working, Paul? Thank you for the emails, even if I don't get to respond. You know I see them.
You see them, sure. Good morning, everybody.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming in. But what a work. I see the work that you're putting in. This must be a real labor of love for you.
Very much so. I'm not quite sure why, but I've fallen in love with it more as I've gone along.
Fulfilling a purpose to St. Mary. What a foundation that is being built, though. And are you seeing that? Are you feeling that some deep roots are being put down here for the St. Mary?
Well, we shall see. I mean, I do hope so. I mean, St. Mary has a proud identity. And hopefully we can enhance it to some extent with this.
Yeah. So the St. Mary Literary Festival, just for listeners who might be joining us for the first time, the background to this is what?
The background is that some people here may know of the Calabash Festival in St. Elizabeth, which has been happening for some years now. When I heard last year that it was now going to be every 2 years, I thought there's an opportunity for us to step in. But really what triggered it was Margaret Busby, one of the presenters at Calabash, came to stay with me after the Calabash. She was with a friend. And her visit gave me the idea. I took her also to 2 local schools to talk to the children, to inspire them. So it's really a mixture of both.
Yes.
So our festival includes accomplished writers and also some school children.
And I know when you were just kicking off things, because we were talking very early in the day, it was going into the schools, getting the information out. Have you managed to do that to reach your audience?
Well, I would have liked more response, but we have 11 high school students presenting and 2 from a primary school.
Okay, and these are across the parish or from?
Well, I went to schools in Kingston and St Andrew and St Mary.
Okay,
I didn't go further.
Yes. So the 11 high school students are from Kingston.
One from Kingston, one from Immaculate, and the others from St Mary.
Okay. What about St. Mary High? Any takers?
No, they've been very, very much on board, but didn't. It's Marymount High School, and St. Mary Technical High School,
yes,
and Rockabessa High School.
Wow. All right. So give us an idea now of where we are, because we're just a few days out from this. It's the 27th of April.
Yep.
So we're looking at how many days now? Because today's the 21st.
3 or 4 or 5 days. Yeah, not long.
Just a few days. So what will be happening on the day?
What will be happening on the day? Well, the emphasis, of course, is the poetry. But we have an intro session with the mayor speaking, and also our St. Mary Festival Queen welcoming. I really wanted to include her because we have the young people taking part.
Yes.
So I thought it would be nice to have a young person. And also the folks who helped me from JCDC, Sanya Mirage, and Corinne Burton from the library, and Mr. Sherwin Reynolds from the STC. So they'll be opening up with us at the start. One thing I have done is appeal to them to try and keep their comments short, because we have a very full program.
Yes,
and I don't want any poets to be left out.
Yeah.
So then we have the first session, which is made of 3 parts, 2 segments of people reading poetry, and in between a panel discussion. And that panel discussion is artificial intelligence and its impact on writers and writing. So the people who are actually taking part in that are some of the writers themselves who volunteered. So that's really nice. Then at lunchtime, we have a local musician, Papa Kervin, who I was put in touch with by somebody I met at the pub.
And I saw that last week and I was like, whoa, Papa Kervin. I mean, I've known him forever, you know.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, okay. I'm looking forward to that, Papa Kervin.
Yes. Jennifer Garnett, I went to a Poetry Society meeting a few weeks ago, and I asking around if we could get... And Bala plays his music at the Poetry Society, but he couldn't come. Oh. So Jennifer suggested, you've got a neighbour, she said. And I've not met Papa Curran before.
Yes.
So we were very, very willing to come on board.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So
do you want to talk about the as you go through? Who are the participants on the panel discussions? Who will be participating on the panel? The discussants themselves.
Okay. Well, the first panel discussion on artificial intelligence impact. I'd say three of the writers: Britton Wright, Andy Livingstone, and Kwame McPherson, who's presenting.
Of course, brilliant. Yeah.
The second discussion in the second session, is the role of literature in revolutionary movements, including Marcus Garvey. That should have included Leslie Taylor Grover, who is coming from Mississippi, but she just told me yesterday she's had a death in the family and can't make it. But the other two folks are Michael Record and Sharma Taylor.
Okay, brilliant, yes. You know, those, and I especially... I love the panel discussions and
they're a bit too short, of course, what we have down here.
Yes, and even that discussion on artificial intelligence, I think it is so critical to have that conversation right now. With you can just put something in and a poem comes out, you know. And so, what does that mean for the creators of poetry? We're going to be looking at poetry now through different lenses of redefining poetry, and how can you even tell when it is AI? So I see AI having a serious impact on creative writing. Let me take a quick break. I'll come right back, Paul. Conceptualizer of the St. Mary Literary Festival, Paul Ward. Paul, so our listeners know, has a wide and varied background in physics. And also, Paul, I know, because we were talking physics all morning, Paul, that's why I mentioned it. Because I told you I wanted you to come talk about quantum physics, which you've said yes. So I have you on standby for that.
Okay.
So he's the driving force behind the St. Mary Literary Festival, which is coming up in a few days' time, Saturday, April 27, at the Port Maria Anglican Church Hall. So we're just going through what will be happening on the day. We're hearing about the presentations, the panel discussions. You just went through. What are the other... have you gone through all the panel discussions?
Not quite yet. We have, those two that I mentioned. The third session has a discussion item, which is actually going to be advice for aspiring writers. And we have one publisher coming along, I hoped for more, but Tanya Baston from Blue Banyan Books will be coming.
Yes.
And I think a couple of the writers themselves with experience will help.
Tanya is brilliant, yes.
Yeah, I've not met her personally yet.
She's brilliant. So a lot happening on the day, because this is on, if you will, it's integral, but it's on the sideline of the performers themselves, the performances, so we'll talk about those.
Yep.
Who will be performing?
Well, Mervyn Morris, interesting story. I met him on my way to Jamaica back in 1970 on a banana boat.
Yes.
First Jamaican I ever met, and he was on the boat with me and his family. His wife, yeah. Anyway, I've met him recently at the Poetry Society, and he contributed. He can't make it, but he's contributed some videos. So actually, each of the 3 sessions is going to start off with a video of 2 of his poems. And as people might know, his poems are wonderfully short and wonderfully punchy. Mervyn figures very much.
Yeah, the very first reader of my own poetry as a high school student, my guidance counselor, my A-level teacher sent my book to him, and he read. I tell him that story all the time I interview him. He read the book and made, for me as a young poet, as a student, and made the corrections, but also to say, brilliant work, and that's why I'm still writing.
Okay.
Because Mervyn Morris said it was good.
Well, of course, that's a big part of this festival, to encourage the young people to do the same thing.
He's good at that.
The program, if you've seen it, KABU, but the program includes one of Mervyn's poems, followed by one of the poems by one of the high school students, and the idea is to plant the seeds. So
we love that. Yes, love that.
So besides besides Mervyn, we have Kwame McPherson, who was the Commonwealth Short Story winner with his story Okoe. Yeah. So he's very much part of it and being very helpful.
You've got some really distinguished poets and authors in the midst there.
Yes, indeed. And then there's Sharma Taylor, who at UWI, who's just won a Musgrave award.
Yes.
So, but you know, I really don't want to make too much of the big people, because really it's meant to be an ordinary person.
I know, you said that from day one, that you really wanted to hone in on the young poets, give the stage to upcoming poets, not just young in age, but upcoming poets. Yeah. And you managed to net a few, right?
Well, it wasn't me that did it. They responded. And we probably have too many, as I've been saying to people. But the original idea was to have a little question and answer after each poet. But we finished up with so many poets that that probably won't be possible this time.
So it's going to start at 10 and 10 a.m. Are we starting on time, or is this...
We're starting on time, because you can tell I'm from... Britain, and I'm determined.
Because we got Jamaica time, as you know.
Well,
time is an illusion.
You know, one of the poems is called. One of the poems is called. Oh gosh, where has it gone now?
I hope it's not called Jamaica time.
Well, no, one of them talks about. Oh boy, where is the title gone? But it talks about stereotypes, and we don't have to fall into that kind of starting late just because.
Exactly. And for us in the media, we start on time. So I'm going to be there before 10. It starts at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
And it goes through until,
well, we want to try and finish on time at 5, because people have to travel back, So we're really hoping that people will stick to the program. And for those who don't know, KABU is one of the MCs.
Right, yes, and I kind of like the way you referenced me in a note you sent to me. So I'm definitely going to be there, and I'm happy to be participating as one of the MCs, and I'm really looking forward to it. As I said before, I'm going to be there before 10 o'clock. It's at the Anglican Church Hall in Port Maria, asking. Listen, just come out. It's a big enough church. It's big, isn't it?
Yeah, it can take. Well, they tell me we have 250 chairs waiting, but it can take more, we're told. So.
Yes, and it's got an outside.
There's a lovely setting right by the seaside.
Yeah, it overlooks the sea, actually.
Yeah, right next to the sea.
I was just passing there the other day and having another look at it. Yeah. But really lovely venue. Yeah. In terms of, so what will be happening in the yard, if anything?
Well, probably the vendors selling food. Maybe not much more.
Okay.
But I would say, since you mentioned the church, the folks at the church hall have been so helpful, Mrs. Marshall and Mr. Marshall. Very helpful from the start, so thank you.
Yes, brilliant. Anything else we need to know? Let me just give you
well, I'm glad you brought up the start time, because I would really like people to try and come on time, because there's nothing worse when you're not experienced trying to read a poem and people wandering in and out. So I really hope that people will come on time. That would be. We shall be recording it. We're going to try to stream it. Can't promise the streaming will work, but there will certainly be a recording, so those who miss it can catch up.
All right. Are people allowed to do their live streaming from their
anybody who wants to do it, no
their
restrictions.
Live TikTok, their live YouTube, their live.
If somebody else wants to stream it, fine. Send a link. We shall try.
Okay. All right. So it sounds good. Looks good. It's all ready. Live and recorded readings of poetry and prose. We still have prose and poetry.
Yeah, bit of mixture,
Right. And exciting panel discussions. Refreshments on sale, or
we're not organising that. We're providing a lunch for the presenters.
Okay.
But there will be vendors. We're very, very close to the town centre.
Yes.
So food is not really a problem.
And vendors will be
there, probably in quite large numbers.
Right. So look here now, on a January at Port Maria. We're going to be Port Maria Bay. We're going to Port Maria Bay the 27th of April. Please, come out. Capleton. My friend, me could link up with St. Mary now. You should know where St. Mary come from. I'm inviting Capleton.
Yes.
Somebody tell Capleton. Capleton, I know you're listening. Capleton, Chief Tachi himself. Make go out St. Mary, man. So we're going to be there on the 27th at 10 o'clock. at the Port Maria Anglican Church Hall. Paul Ward, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Great work. Look forward to seeing you.
No, thank you for your help as well, Kevin. Thank you.
All right. So there you go. April 27. All poetry lovers. By the way, Paul, is it too late for persons who want to? And I know he's taking off his headphone, so when he comes out, let me see if he'll hear me if I turn. Paul, are you hearing me? No, so he's de-headphoned. He's taking off his headphones, so he's not hearing me at all. But so when he comes out, we'll ask it. I know how we are, that we will turn up on the day if we read poetry and we name not upon the list. But with it put on a name upon the list, there will be no open mic. The program is full already, right, Paul? No open mic, right? No. The program is already full. Is it too late for persons to be on the list? Is it too late for somebody to? Too late. It's too late. Everything closed off. So it's closed. Entries are closed. And thank you so much, Paul. Safe travels up back. So the entries are closed, but please join us on Saturday, April 27, 10 o'clock at the Port Maria Anglican Church Hall for the St. Mary Literary Festival. It's live and recorded readings of poetry and prose with exciting panel discussions. There'll be refreshments, and even though it's going to be recorded, we're looking forward to hearing Professor Mervyn Morris, one of my absolutely most favorite poets ever, and so many others will be there on the day. Also, there will be information there from industry practitioners on publishing, getting your work out, publishing. Tanya Baston Savage will be there, and you know she knows this business. She'll be there. She'll be giving some of that information. So much happening on the 27th of April. Admission is free, by the way. Admission is free. So join us there now on Saturday, April 27th at the Port Maria Anglican Church Hall. Okay.
And so just sort of relaxing a little bit, and also, but I'm also eager to share at any time my perspective and my technology, because what we need to do is to be about the work of enlightening our people, raising our collective consciousness so that we can have a richer experience of the abundance of life, to living life, not talking about going to heaven to have life, but now to have heaven on earth experience as a function of our own internal stabilization of unity consciousness.
Because what is your understanding? And I know you've said that quite a few times since this morning, but just to reiterate, your own understanding of heaven, of that space. I mean, is there such a place? Is there? Well, where did that concept come from?
It's a concept. So we say, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, God made the heaven and the earth. And he made the heaven and the earth for the enjoyment of men. To man to live here on heaven, live here on earth, but discover heaven as a state of consciousness, an inner reality to be lived in the abundant life of happiness, bliss, fulfillment, achievement, perfect health. These are all analogies for heaven. Heaven is the perfected place, but heaven is not a place that the soul is going to go to when it dies. Heaven in the 21st century will be a state of consciousness that is obtained through the discipline of self-reflection to live an abundant life here, apart from sorrow and suffering and misery. Life is not suffering. Life is not miserable. Life is abundant. Life is divine. And this is where we're headed in this next phase of our collective evolution as a people, moving away from slavery, moving away from religion, moving away from theory to actually living the reality. This would be an inauguration of a new age with the precipice of a new time.
Mm. I want to go in the next few minutes that we have to look at the self-reflection technique and the fact that this is something that you are foregrounding, the importance of self-reflection. What is self-reflection?
Self-reflection is a mental technique of taking the mind into the infinite field of pure creative intelligence that's located beyond the source of thought, and infusing that in divinity, infusing that quality of intelligence into our own subjective mind, which orchestrates a higher functioning of our physiology and greater fulfillment, living heaven on earth. We're called to live an abundant, rich life. Our focus has just been in the wrong direction.
Does that mean manifesting it, living it, manifesting it?
Yes, living it, manifesting it. Manifesting it by virtue of learning how to control the organizing intelligence that is our essential nature. That would be if you read the Yoga Sutras of Maharishi Patanjali, how to project a thought from the infinite silence and have the laws of nature act upon that thought to give rise to its manifestation.
From the infinite silence, thought from the infinite silence,
yes.
So that thought can also come from somewhere else. That's not infinite silence.
The thought, the ordinary thinking process is a superficial thinking. We call longitudinal thinking. I'm thinking about right now eating a McDonald's hamburger. I'm thinking. That's superficial thinking. Now, in the process of self-reflection, we accustom the mind to going in and out of the infinite field of silence. And once that has been conditioned, then the mind, even in activity, is situated and saturated with that infinite silence. And any thought projected from that infinite field of silence has the support of all the laws of nature that give rise to the manifestations of desire. Because thought is just surrendering. For example, if we think in the beginning there was nothing, there was infinite silence, a request was surrendered into that infinite silence. Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashemayim v'et haaretz, a sequence of words, Hebrew letters. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That was created with the articulation of those words. So the surrendering of that is the purity of thought, being established, being grounded in the absolute eternal nature of our being. Then our thoughts will be supported by the laws of nature, and that lives a life of fulfillment. You're fulfilled when your thoughts and desires are fulfilled to achieve.
And you're saying, and is there a process to do that? Is there a particular technique? Do you have to will yourself or subject yourself in a way such to get to that space, or can this come miraculously?
A very, very good question. It's a discipline. It's a discipline that practices 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon of sitting quietly, superimposed upon your consciousness a mind tool, a mantra. The very nature of the mantra turns the mind toward its nature, and you take a dive into the inner self. And when you take a dive into your inner self, it's very charming, fulfilling, and physiologically the body gets a deep rest. The rest is much deeper than that obtained in doing deep sleep. So this is scientifically verified procedure of how to take the mind into the infinite field of creative intelligence, have that intelligence infused into the mind so that the mind becomes more expanded, broader in its capacity to see, think, feel, and the physiology is now optimized. Stress is released through the process. And so once physiology is integrated, mind is operating, perceptions are clear, life is abundant. So it's a process.
And as you're talking through that, I'm thinking the discussions we had earlier, even about our youth and how the system can facilitate self-reflection. This is something that can be, instead of the westernized, Europeanized devotions that we have at school. And this is why I talked about culture before. Stuff like this, self-reflection techniques, and you can tell me what difference this would make in a school where violence is prevalent, which is part of our own reality. on the island now. We have a serious problem with at schools. How could this self-reflection technique be, or could it be transferred to, say, the devotions that we have in high schools and primary schools?
I was asked to write a curriculum for a female school in India. And a part of my idea for the curriculum is that each morning and in the afternoon, 20 minutes of silence. Students would sit 20 minutes to engage in silence, but also they were just not sitting in silence. It was an activated silence because each student had been initiated to the practice of self-reflection, given a mantra that has a very soothing effect and a refining effect, an invigorating effect on the nervous system while infusing more intelligence into the thinking process. So that would be a 21st century consciousness-based education would be the word, that it would be introduce the student to himself. The contemporary educational system, that is what's missing. The contemporary education system is about filling the container, the student, with knowledge, rather than my approach would be to expand the container of information, which would be consciousness. So the goal of education would be to introduce the student to a technology by which anything can be accomplished, rather than specific information, limited information. Introduce the student to the unbounded, pure field of pure being inside of themselves through a daily exercise, going into that field, infusing their mind with a quality of intelligence before even embarking on the quest of studying the day. Before school, you have 20 minutes to sit and collect oneself consciously, infuse one's intelligence with more orderliness, greater sense of thought capacity, then enter into the study of the applied sciences, which are all are just a function. The home of all the laws of nature is the self. So we introduce. So it has tremendous educational implications for the future to give a student a sense of self. Students are not interested in hearing the same old course of information. They're interested in discovering themselves, and this is what a technique of self-reflection does.
I seriously and honestly feel that this is a disruptor that we need on this island. I feel this strongly, and I really do hope. I know people are listening from the different ministries, and I hope you're catching on to this. You care about this news just like you care about everything else. Sorry, Doctor. But it is what it is. In self-reflection, the self-reflection technique, for the person who's listening now who's going to say, you know, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that, you know. How would you advise that person? Because you talk about mantra. What are examples of mantra? What's a mantra?
Well, this is a whole science. It's coming from a science of how to impart this information. What is the technology used? What about the student would direct you toward a specific sound for this individual? All of that is a part of the teacher training. Now, what I offer a course, an introductory free lecture to come and listen to the science of being, which is the nature of reality, consisting of an aspect that is seen and an aspect that is unseen, and how the seen is driven by the unseen. So the real reality is the unmanifest consciousness that drives subjective relativity. And so I give them a technology by which you can sit down quietly 20 minutes in the morning, dive deep inside of yourself, have a refreshing experience of enlivening your own intelligence while giving the physiology a deep rest and making you more successful, profitable in the relative world. And that's really, I give a person that for $200. They pay $200 a course fee, which is an introductory lecture and 3 follow-up lectures. 3 follow-up lectures to give them the technology, to make sure that they're using the technology and that the technology is effortless, charming, beautiful, and they feel more sense of integration, a greater sense of well-being as a function of time. This is a technique for seekers, people who want to have higher states of consciousness, people who want to feel more integrated, people who want to feel more fulfilled as a function of their achievement in life. This is for a certain population. Yeah. So we give them to this, and we give it to young students. And we give it really because it's not trying to sell. I was very conflicted because I'm a man of light. And a man of night really is not really focusing on the money, but I do have to pay for the travel to certain places and tickets and things like that. But I'm not so much interested in selling a product as to giving a product to those who are interested in exercising a discipline. And I think that's why the school system should take a package like this and make it available for students, and they would see and monitor over time the benefits of a consciousness-based education.
Yeah, and I'm, you know, this is something I think that the ministry should really reach out to you on. How can, I know we talked about your number before, but in terms of whether there's an email
yes.
or a contact, how can you be reached?
You can find me at Baba Yeshua, BABAYSHUA @gmail.com. Baba Yeshua, BABAYSHUA
of the Africa Forum. This is Running Africa, and Baba Yeshua, Dr. Yeshua Israel Baba, in the studio with us as we talk about in this segment of the program the self-reflection technique. Once again, for much more information on that and how you can participate in that, how you can access the free sessions plus the more advanced sessions where there is a cost, you can email Baba Yeshua. So it's BABAYSHUA @gmail.com, and he'll be responding in short order. As we talk about reflection, and I want to throw reflexivity in, because when you're going through that process, Baba, how important is it also to if not question, but to at least find your own biases, your own assumptions about life and about others through that self-reflection, and we move it to reflexivity? Because I know there's a little difference here. Or does it encompass all of that for you with the technique?
The technique for me is one of entering into the home of all the laws of nature. All the laws of nature have the effect of orchestrating perfection in my thinking, in my being, and in my doing. The basis of thinking and action and doing is all predicated upon the level of consciousness. So when I take my mind into the pure field of being, perfection is infused into my mind. It's done automatically. I don't have to try to think. I do less and accomplish more. I simply enter into a state of abstract thought. It's not even clear. And in that moment, divinity, the home of all the laws of nature, everything is rectified, corrected. All possibilities that were in error are corrected. So it's that type of self-correcting, the automation of administration, automation of what needs to be done gets done as I enter into that field of creative intelligence.
So that it goes beyond. It's a process.
Yes.
Is it a learned behavior, or I know you talk about discipline and so on. Do you get to? Is it possible using the techniques to get to this immediately, or this is also a process, a step by step?
It's a process. It's a process, but each experience is a very rich and unique experience because the goal of the experience is to cultivate deeper states of consciousness, which has the effect of releasing stress in the nervous system. So it's a pleasant experience, a very charming experience of having the nervous system settle down. And as the nervous system settles down, stress is released. Stress is released as also divine intelligence is infused into the consciousness. So it's an automatic process as a function of time establishes one in a sense in their cosmic awareness. It establishes you in the state of cosmic awareness and aligns you with the organizing intelligence that's structuring evolution and destiny, which makes you happy and peaceful and productive and joyful.
What do you say to persons who are listening who say, I mean, wow, look at what's happening in Gaza, look at what's happening in Sudan, look at what's happening in Rwanda and across the world. I mean, there are wars, and just today we're seeing where the U.S. is agreeing now to send, they've signed off on a bill to send billions of dollars worth of weapons to Ukraine, so, and to Israel at the same time, and TikTok is being banned. You know, there's just so much happening around us. What do you say to people who say, and you're telling us to self-reflect and to find
yes, because that's precisely why I'm telling you to self-reflect, because what we're seeing is indication of darkness. And what I'm offering you is the potential for enlightenment. So we see the contrast between light, enlightenment, light versus darkness. Darkness is what we see today in the absence of enlightenment, which is an attempt to be fulfilled in only 50% of life. That is the physical, relative, I, thou, artificial dichotomy. The nature of reality is duality, but the reality of that duality is unity. And unity is knowing, and unity is being in union with the source of knowledge. And being in union with the source of knowledge is being unified with the G-O-D. And when you're unified with the G-O-D, yes, you're in harmony, you're in synchrony. And what we're seeing in Gaza and with the violence and gun violence everywhere and killing is the emptiness that is indicative of detachment, of not being unified. It's being separated from the organizing intelligence. It's being alienated from God. It's being ignorant of God. It's not knowing. It's not loving your brother. It's being separated from your brother because it's I, thou versus I and I being one, because we don't know the reference for the I. See, until we know that the I of the I is the eye of the eye, we cannot be at peace. You cannot love your neighbor as yourself until you actually are one with yourself. And when you are one with yourself, you are one with your neighbor. So when we see the Gaza and the tragedy and all the indications of war, they all reinforce what I'm saying is missing. The knowledge of the unity of diversity is missing, because the experience of the unity. That's why I say a book about God is not the experience of God. We read about the book about God every day, but we're not experiencing the unity and love of God because we're fundamentally alienated from ourselves and do not know ourselves to be other than pure consciousness.
How do you know when you're experiencing God consciousness?
Because life makes a turn toward heaven being on earth. Remember, I said in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth is for you to enjoy heaven. When you are in joy, when you are in joy, you are enjoying, because joy is the presence of synchronicity with the organizing intelligence that is the G-O-D. because the G-O-D is not an M-A-N anymore. G-O-D is pure organizing intelligence, pure consciousness. And when we're synchronized with that, life becomes abundant, life becomes full. I begin to live in the sanctuary of God, and I put on the spectacles of God consciousness, and I see God everywhere.
At what point do we move beyond, or should we move beyond the constraints of language? And I keep coming back to it because for my own self, I think that with our tongues, we curse ourselves because of the language we're using. And with our tongues, we, what's his name? Our brother, in Google, what Younger talks about memory is in the tongue. So that, how do we reclaim the memory of language, of the divine language then, if you will, if we do not understand or speak the divine language, or is the divine language even oral?
Well, now, you've asked me a question. I believe this is what I think, the technologies of consciousness. So you bring a very fascinating question. Language. Now, the language, from where I'm coming from, I work with two holy languages. The language of Sanskrit, Om Burbu Vatswaha Tatsavitu Varenyam, Bargo Devashadi Maidi Yo Napa Chodayat. Or the language of Hebrew, because I'm Israelite. So Israel is, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Now, here is the Lord our God is one. You should love the Lord our God with all our heart, our soul, and our strength. But what I mean, language in this sense, language in this case, two languages being for technology of consciousness. Now, I know you're talking about conventional language. And I'm talking about a holy language, because in holy language, we speak reality into existence.
I'm talking about like the Medunetta. We have forgotten our tongue doesn't speak the holy language then.
No.
For us in the diaspora, and I'm thinking about the reclamation process of going forward to the divine self, of understanding the G-O-D that is connected to the divine creative energies that you spoke about this morning, that and to thought. In what language do we think? I'm not even quite sure if you understand what I'm saying, but the point I'm making is that there's a language we're speaking now in Jamaica. If you go to Haiti, they'll be doing a Creole French, and we and Trinidad and so on, we're doing the enslaver's tongue, but we're thinking in the enslaver's tongue. And I would say, is there a need to rise beyond the tongue to a spiritual, a holy language, which might not even be the Medunetta, but once you get to that level of consciousness, then language in terms of how you speak orally doesn't matter anymore, because thought is what matters.
Yeah, I would agree with that last statement. That when you reach a level of consciousness and when you're synchronized with perfection, then you're the expression of perfection. I mean, you don't sin, you don't deviate, you don't violate divine law when you are synchronized with divine law. So if you're synchronized with divine law is expressing itself through you in your thoughts, in your words, and in your deeds. So that would
divine law.
Yeah, that would be the synchronicity with divine law, the divine intelligence, which would be reflected in your behavior, your thoughts, and your actions. And that's what you call now being God conscious.
That explains a lot, and I think for a lot of us, it kind of also sets the table to be. If you're going to go to the highest level or beyond God consciousness, to the unity that you've been speaking about this morning, is that how do we go through these different stages?
And what we have to realize, that the ascent to higher consciousness is not really appreciated because you're an individual. So you're talking about individual wants, individual need, I. But when the subjective I, the small I, dies, then it becomes not my will, but thine be done. That's why you're living for a much greater purpose.
And then thine being
the organizing intelligence of being, the God. Not my will, but thine be done, living in the kingdom of the divine will, not your will, because your will is individual will, which only leads to full misery. This is the case now.
Of which you are already a part, and not misery, but of the divine creative energies, of which you are already a part of. The understanding
potentially. You have the potential to cultivate that. But being an individual means that you've embarked upon a quest in the terrestrial realm to learn about your authentic identity, because we are not these bodies, we are not these genders, we are not these ethnic groups, we're an individualized impulse of pure consciousness having an odyssey as these individuals, as these colors, as these races. That's at the lowest level of being. The highest level of consciousness would be God consciousness. That means now becoming an expression of the individualized organizing intelligence, transcending individuality again.
Wow. Please do not go. I'm going to take a break. It's going to be about 10 minutes. It's not really a break. I do have an interview to do that's going to be about 10 minutes. Just stay where you are, if you will, Baba. If you need to move out, do that. And then we'll just come back and wrap things up, if you don't mind. Let me go quickly to a break and then to the many comments and questions for Dr. Yeshua. One of the things, let me see what my sister Aldith is saying. She says, Professor KABU Valdez, okay, yes, I will be, Aldith, so thank you so much for that. I will definitely be at the Anglican Church Hall on the 27th of April. I'm one of the MCs at the St. Mary Literary Festival. All right, so Dr. Yeshua, I can tell you, scores of questions coming in. I'm happy that people are actually writing in the questions, because I don't think we're going to get a chance to open the phone lines this morning. But all right, so let me get some comments first. Ganesha Thompson says, grateful for your classroom system. May you always be protected heart of love. And Donna Mattis says, Hotep KABU and the Running African Family. The misconceptions of the arrogance of power are revealed minutely in the dystopia, but woe to the down-pressers. And I can feel that energy that our sister Donna Mattis is writing that with, because they are really, the arrogance of power is something that we didn't talk a lot about, but which you reference many times when you talk about that we didn't define, but yet things have been defined for us, and here we are. But this continues in many different spheres, and the tools that are used to do this include some of the strongest and most powerful tools. Say, for example, on the island of Jamaica, how do you get around the tools? For example, the church. It is what it is. I'm just asking.
Well, we have to understand that there are platforms and there are paradigms. And I said at the outset that this is a cosmic paradigm shift that's taking place. We have no choice but to go to the next strata in our ascension toward enlightenment, which has to do with the knowledge of ourselves, that we are impulses of creative intelligence, a unique set of creative people, and we have a destiny that we are capable of defining from a higher platform now. And we're at the threshold of a new day. This is a new day, so there's nothing to get alarmed about, just to sit and enjoy the ride, because the best is yet to come as we are becoming more cognizant of who we are and what our gifts and what our strengths are and our ability to compel and control the laws of nature, which will give us our real strength.
And our brother Ras Jomo is in the United States. He's where de Jomo, Philadelphia. The most clear language is communicated in our doing, our action, not so much in the, regardless, he says, of the regional lingua franca. So action as opposed to words.
Yes.
All right. All right. James Jones says, from early we were taught to penetrate God. as our parents, so that the parents become God. Your own views on that? In terms of how you view God. This is.
Well, I think all of this has been under the religious format and the anthropomorphic definition of a God as a I-thou dichotomy. God is something different from I. And the new paradigm is that there's only one reality, and that reality is G-O-D, or that reality is consciousness. That has always been in the reality. If we go to the scriptures, you see that God is one. What does that mean? That means one singular source of creative intelligence, that all of the diversity that we see is just but a fluctuation of that infinite intelligence. And this is the paradigm, this is the construct that I believe is necessary for we as African people to go into the 21st century, to developing this notion of I. What is I? What am I? I am an impulse of consciousness. How do I optimize the potential inherent in that wisdom that's going to make me one with the G-O-D? Because when the worshiper and the object of worship becomes one, then there's no reason to worship anymore.
Ras Jomo also says Jamaica's harnessed an immense amount of positive spiritual energy in these last few hundred years. The world has been redefined by what happens and who happens on the rock. And here you are, Dr. Yeshua.
Baruch Hashem.
And Andrew Lumsden said, such a beautiful interview, generator, organizer, dispenser. I see you gone into a Scottish accent there, Andrew. Can I walk a good? No, I'm not going to talk. You're going to do it by your own. And Rastafari says the brother is now in perfect alignment with what our prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey said about religion and science and the future of our people. He said that we must have a race of scientists par excellence. We have come full circle, right forward to science and technology.
Yes.
And this is phenomenal, isn't it? I was just saying this 2 nights ago to my husband, but here we are, where Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey said, science and technology. But we had moved so far away from it. But here we are again, even when we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. I know we're almost out of time, and we're throwing that in the middle of things. Your own take on that in terms of the divine intelligence, where we are in science and technology, the shift in the paradigm, and this other thing that's coming at us now, which is artificial intelligence. Is this also coming full circle?
I'm not sure. I don't know. When I see that as some type of negativity. I see that as not evolutionary toward good. I'm not sure.
But it's the only way that Jesus will come from the skies. You know that.
I don't know about those concepts because I don't know nothing about Jesus.
No, the point, and that's the point I'm making, that if you look at where it's going, it can come from the skies. This is my own thinking on it, because I'm looking at what's happening in China, for example. Things are already coming from the skies in terms of the use of artificial intelligence and what they're doing on the walls. I think you have a look at it. And every time I look at that, I said, okay, well, yes. So we're going to see the skies open and they're going to come down. But they would have already been placed there to come down. The point I'm making is that artificial intelligence is going to make that reality happen. That thinking, which is not necessarily reality, but that thinking happen.
But the artificial intelligence would be artificial by definition, and artificial would be that which is not real.
Exactly.
And that's an illusion. So I'm not sure where that's going. But my consciousness theme has to be being in synchrony with the forces of evolution, because we have nature, which is the forces of evolution, and we have consciousness, spirituality. And I'm saying how the two now are going to be one, so that my spirituality is dictated and organized and synchronized with the forces of nature that gives rise to evolution.
Understood and well said. All right, quite a few more comments in the space. Many questions about where you're going to be in Jamaica and where you can be found. So we have already answered that in terms of sending an email to participate in some of what's happening online. You can participate. These are online, right?
Yes.
Dr. Yeshua. So you can participate in that. Once again, your email is?
BABAYSHUA@gmail.com. You also can find Baba. I'm Dr. Baba Israel.
And you're on YouTube.
YouTube. Yes, I go to YouTube.
You can just type in Dr. Baba, Dr. Yeshua Israel, Dr. Baba, and he's on YouTube. You can, spend some more time listening to much more than you heard here this morning, just elements going deeper in those spaces. Dr. Yeshua, considering all that we have discussed this morning, and the interaction, the energy, the frequency, the vibration that is now within the space, because we created the space this morning in terms of our thoughts and our words, which means that the energy is where it is. We're using the airwaves, which is really a powerful space. This has gone out to all across the world. How can we harness this positive energy that's for all of us who are listening as we move from today onward to create and manifest more positivity?
I think that it's a matter of awareness of the fact that you just said that we created the power. We created a construct. We created something. How do we stay in that? How do we maintain that? By continuing to contemplate the issues that have been raised here. We stay within that frequency. We stay within that context by virtue of continuing to see the energy. Energy flows where energy goes, or something to that effect.
Where attention goes.
Yes. Where the attention goes, the energy flows. So in keeping with that expression, we have to stay within the thinking of consciousness, how to optimize consciousness. What is consciousness? What does it allow it to do? How can we self-determine what is the 21st century paradigm? How we're going to extricate ourselves from the 20th century paradigm of religion and faith, and moving into science and technology with their different purposes and aims.
Wow. Dr. Yeshua Israel Baba, thank you so much, my brother. I know that you would have already felt the forces as you come into Jamaica, some real powerful ancestral energy, spiritual energies on this island. I hope that you're able to move through the spaces that are the hinterlands and the rivers and the mountains and the valleys before you leave. And the caves. The indigenous energy on this island is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I treasure the opportunity to come and bask in it. Just celestially, by being here, I'm transformed. I can do less and accomplish more simply by tuning to that ancestral energy and a consciousness that characterizes the Jamaican, and the spiritual potential and energy and cultural energy that's associated with the Jamaican consciousness. May the people of Jamaica be blessed and continue to lead the world, particularly in its diasporic awakening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Yeshua Israel Baba, who was with us in the studio this morning talking about the different states of consciousness, talking about self-reflection, talking about energy and frequencies and the vibrations and the divine creative forces. So much happened in this space this morning. I know you're feeling it. You're feeling it, Bigay? I know you're feeling it. I can see it on you, looking all calm. I know you're feeling it, Bigay. Don't you see Dr. Baba on him? Yeah, he's coming in with the energy, man. Welcome to this.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Oh, really? Oh, really? It's your thing we're talking about.
Part of, consider me.
Energy and frequencies and vibration.
Of course.
Don't know you that. See there. There you go. All right, we're making way for the big A inside of the Sunday Sunshine. What should I say? This? Contact. You want Dr. Yeshua's contact on YouTube? This is what it is. At Dr. Yeshua Yisrael Baba. So that's what you look at YouTube. At Dr. Yeshua Yisrael Baba. Thank you so much. Sizzlon Kalandri. I didn't get you this morning, my brother, and the program full, but I don't know what happened, so you can't let me know what did go on. You were supposed to be on this morning at around 6:45, 6:30 or thereabouts, but we never get you. But we know, the thing go on at Judgment Yard. We know that the bingy is going on at Judgment Yard, and just to you and the brethren there. Enough power. Also, we know bingy happening all across Jamaica. So wherever the night bingy happening for this week into next week, more power to you. And we know that there's an event at the 12 Tribes of Israel HQ, so go check that out. Also, today is an auspicious day on the island. Biggie was a baby you never born it when Haile Selassie came. One day His Majesty came to Jamaica. You weren't born yet? 1966?
I wasn't born when the internet was invented or WhatsApp.
April 21, 1966.
No.
You weren't even born when WhatsApp was invented?
Yeah, or Facebook.
So much less 1966. I know. I understand. I totally get you. So I can't ask you about 1966. I never born it. All right, making way for the big A inside of this Sunday Sunshine. My name is KABU. Thank you, Rain. See you next week.